So, greetings. I am Ramanda Noble Watson, the Director of Communications and Public Relations with the South Carolina High School League. And today I want to take a few minutes to come to you all. Over the past few weeks, there has been a lot going on in the South Carolina High School League. And what better way to find out exactly what's going on and how things are panning out than having our esteemed Commissioner, Dr. Jerome Singleton, here with us today just to talk about a couple of things. Welcome. Thank you, Dr. Singleton, for taking some time out your busy schedule to come and say hey with me and let us know what's going on.
Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is really informal. I just pulled you out your office, just say, hey, come talk with me. So it's just a really informal thing that we're going to do. We're going to talk about some of the things that's happened over the past few weeks, some of the things that's about to happen, some things that even happened last fall. So we're going to dive right in. And of course, you know what's on everybody's mind. I can give you a guess, but I'll tell you. Reclassification, realignment, and the regions. Let's just talk about how did that whole process pan out?
So every 2 years we go over realignment and reclassification. It's standard. Every 2 years we do it. Now this year is a little differently than we've done it in the past.
Okay.
This year we use something other than just enrollment. We used a multiplier. The executive committee got together and created a subcommittee that studied to see if there was other ways that we could do realignment other than just counting enrollment. That committee worked for about 5 weeks and they looked at everything differently and they said, what can we do differently? So they came up with about 6 different ideas. The one that they landed on that the exec committee supported was to use a multiplier, a 3-point multiplier. And they studied it from different states and see how other states have done it.
Okay.
The 3-point multiplier actually applies to every school, and it goes with any student that lives outside of your attendance area. Outside of your attendance area means that if you got on a bus, if the bus didn't take you to your school, then you're outside of the attendance area. So
Okay.
if you can't ride the bus to the school, you're outside the attendance area. They count that as 3 students. So we use the enrollment count, but for every kid that you have from outside your attendance area, we count as 3 students. Here's an example.
Okay.
We've got 100 students.
Mm-hmm.
10 of them are from outside the attendance area. Well, we remove the 10, so now you've got 90 students within the attendance area.
Okay.
We will multiply that 10 by 3, which is 30. Add that back to the 90, now we've got 130 students. That's your final count for your enrollment.
Okay.
That's the 3-point multiplier. Now, once we put that in place, we place the schools in classifications, rank them from high to low. The reclassification, realignment guidelines committee came up with all the standards that we're supposed to use. They said we need to have a minimum number of schools in this class and a maximum number of schools in this class.
Okay.
And we can flow differently, 4 or 5 on each side. Well, we came up with 54 schools for the 5A class, 40-something schools for the 4A class, 30-something schools for the 3A class. I think there's another 40-something schools for the 2A class, and 50 schools for the 1A class. So they were placed in classification.
Okay.
After being placed in classification, we notified all the schools and shared that information with them. Gave them an opportunity to appeal their classification to the executive committee, which is the first group that could review it.
So let me stop you right there. So during the appeals, so we now we're in a classification. We think that we should be in a different classification. How many appeals, if you can recall off the top of your head, how many appeals came before the executive committee to appeal their classifications?
22.
22, okay.
Now, bear in mind, this was a new process, very new to a lot of people. We've got 223 schools.
Okay.
Right at 10% of them says, I want to appeal. So
Gotcha.
22 of them asked to appeal.
Okay. So they appealed, they got a decision, they were either the decision to keep them in the class was upheld, or the decision was, okay, we're going to go ahead and move you down. Then what?
So when they had the opportunity to appeal, they had to bring forward what would be the reason why those numbers that they had shouldn't be applicable to them.
Okay.
And we had 22 of them to ask to be moved down with classification, or moved down with a couple classifications. 22 of them was presented, right at 15 of them was approved. So it went before the executive committee. They looked at it and saw their appeal had merit to it,
Okay.
so they approved it. Now the whole reason for the multiplier was to create more competitive balance. Right now we're going through some competitive imbalance. So some of the schools had to be moved around, the multiplier, and the thought was that the multiplier was effective because it moved some schools around. The thought also is that if you can get students from outside of your attendance area, that you have a competitive advantage. You join from a larger population than those that you're competing against.
Okay.
So with that, we used the multiplier, came up with these numbers, and those that came and appealed and says, listen, we got these numbers, but for X, Y, and Z reasons, we shouldn't have these numbers to be applicable to us.
Okay.
We asked to be moved down a class. The committee looked at it and approved it.
So you said 15 of the 22, so that leaves 7. What happened with the 7 that was not allowed? That was denied, so to speak. What happens next with them? What did they do something after that?
So some of them chose not to appeal any further.
Okay.
Some of them chose to go before the appellate panel, who was
Okay.
the second level that you can appeal the executive committee decision with.
Okay.
All right. So those that went before them, I think 2 of those got approved.
Okay. So now we're here. So the appeal process, the appellate panel process, classifications decided on. Next we have the regions.
Right.
So that's another whole different process. So can you give us just a little insight on that process?
So truly, once we place them in classifications, then the process becomes we put them in regions. Each classification divided into regions.
Right.
Either 6 regions, 7 regions, 8 regions.
Okay.
I don't think we have any 5 regions, but it could have been as low as 5 regions. The thought process is to place them geographically friendly as we possibly can. So those closest schools that are closest to each other, we place them in the same region. Realizing that we have to start from the outside and work our way in.
Okay.
Because if we start from the inside and work our way out, we run out of regions before we run out of schools. Then to create those new regions, we're going to have schools passing other schools to get to each other. So we start from the outside and work our way in, pulling the schools from inside out. So when you get in a heavy populated area like Charleston, heavy populated area like Columbia, heavy populated area like Greenville, there'll be schools that are in the same county or in the same district in some cases, and we put them in different regions. Only because we had to start from the outside first and work our way in. Okay.
So now we're in our classifications, we're in our regions. We're ready to go for the 24, 26, or no?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Right. So next, once they're placed in regions and sent to the schools, they look at it and they have the opportunity to appeal their region placement.
Okay.
Now, there's another committee that looks at that. Each classification has what you would call an executive committee.
So a classification executive committee
will hear the appeals to where you are in your region.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, once they hear the appeal, if the school wish to appeal their decision, it comes back to the executive committee. And if they wish to appeal the executive committee decision, then it goes back to the appellate panel. And then it's over.
And then we'll have our, that's a complicated process, but a process that needs to be held nonetheless to try to, like you said, to create that competitive balance as much as possible. Can't please everybody. We know that. So there's going to be some schools who still feel like, but this is the most diplomatic way to make sure that it's done in a fair manner. If nothing else, I think anyway.
Well, yeah, and the key is to do it while there's no names and faces attached.
Right.
So when we made the decision of what the multiplier was going to be, we had no idea what enrollment any school had.
Okay.
But the guidelines committee made all those decisions before they knew anything about what school had what enrollment count. So there was no faces or names attached to it. So it's very objective. When we apply it, and it affects people differently, then they can't claim that they were being picked on or was it being subjective because it was made before they even know what numbers you had. And it affected private schools, it affected charter schools, it affected traditional public schools. All of those schools were affected. It affected magnet schools. All of those schools were affected.
So all the schools at SCHSL were affected. No one was singled out.
No one was singled out.
Sound fair enough to me.
Yes.
Well, okay, so that's the reclassification and realignment. But as you know, or you may not know, we still have to go on as the South Carolina High School League outside of the reclassification and realignment. So talk about, before I do that, let me go back to this number in 5A. You said 54 schools. 54 is that considered genuinely a large number for a classification?
Well, one of the things that the guidelines committee recommended, that the executive committee could consider, or the schools in that class could consider, moving to 2 divisions.
Okay.
Now that has not been settled.
Okay.
What has to happen first is that the school would want to make a request to it before the executive committee would consider it.
Okay.
They have the authority to consider it in absence of their request, but it doesn't, they usually don't do anything that the classification doesn't want. Now, the classification doesn't always get what they want,
Right.
but they don't usually impose something on a classification that they don't want. And going to 2 division is different. So there is conversation about that. Nothing happens yet until the classifications get together, make a decision, make a request, goes to the executive committee, they make a decision on it, and then we'll know whether it's 2 divisions or not.
Okay. So you can't make any determinations, don't have any timelines or any of that stuff because you don't know if it's even going to happen.
That's correct.
So you can't develop it. Okay. And the reason why I was asking about that is I had a couple of questions about that. So I'm glad that you took the time to explain that nothing has been decided. Therefore, there is no timeline on whether or not there's going to be 2 divisions or not. So that, I think that answers the couple of questions that I did receive. Well, as I was saying previously before I asked about the amount of schools, we still have to function.
Yes.
So we still have to go on. It's a lot going on. So we had some initiatives that happened. We had some collaborations that happened in early December before we left for the holidays. We're going to talk about a couple of those initiatives and the collaboration, of course. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the healthy, safe, and wellness initiatives that our started in July, Director of Health, Safety, and Wellness, Tim Kinney, he was really instrumental in implementing some of those things. So talk about the initiatives that Mr. Kinney brought to us.
So we're really excited about that. Mr. Kinney actually has been an athletic trainer. We all recognize one for many years. And we're really excited because one of the things that the South Carolina High School League prides itself on is the health, safety, and wellness of our student athletes.
Absolutely.
Anything that we do, the health, safety, and wellness of our athletes would come first. So we've created a bunch of good initiatives that we're going to make priority over anything else. So, and of all of our decision making, we will keep at the forefront the health, how it will affect the health, the safety, and the wellness of our student athletes. We're talking emotionally, we're talking physically, we're talking mentally. All of those things is part of it. So we've got some brand new initiatives. A couple of them we've done is we've had Emergency Action Plan Week.
Yes.
A couple others that we have, we sent out information about what to look for when you're looking at a kid that's concussed. So there are several things that are out there that we'll continue to do. The best is yet to come because we're growing. What we're really proud of is we're only one of 2 states in the country that has such a position. Everybody will eventually have to get one.
Absolutely.
Or put somebody in that area because it's becoming more and more critical that we spend time making our decisions based on how it affects the health, wellness, and safety of our student athletes.
And I know one of the things that he's doing right now that he's been putting out in the Tuesday News is the hypothermia. As you know, we're having unseasonably cold weather in South Carolina, and so the spring sports may be just gearing up, or even outside the outside sports. You got to be mindful of what to look for in a kid that's hypothermic that you may not in the past had to look for because we didn't have these cold temperatures. So that's another initiative that he's been pushing out there. Just like you said, the knowledge is power, as they always say. So knowing what to do before you need to do it is the important piece of things.
That's correct. And we want to be a resource to our member schools in all ways possible, the way as it relates to athletics. So we want to stay in front of them, get the new information in front of them as soon as we possibly can. All the things that they need to take in consideration, keep it in front of them. Make it a point of emphasis for them so that as they make their decisions locally, which they get to do a lot of, they can do it with this type of information in front of them to help them make good decisions.
That is so true. And along, we're going to stay on the new line, along with Tim Kinney coming. We also have Dr. Cottrell Rodan, who is our Director of Educational Services, and she hit the ground running. She is definitely an uplifting individual who cares so deeply. Another former teacher cares so deeply about the students of the student athletes and students as a whole of the SCHSL. And so she has also implemented one major piece that I think is going to bridge that gap between the schools and the South Carolina High School League. Tell us what that That is.
But we're excited about Dr. Rodan. I mean, she brings a wealth of knowledge with her. She's been in the coaching field. She's been an athlete, a very well accomplished athlete, a very well accomplished coach. So she understands our student athletes. So she brings the educational piece to us. The captain's course, the leadership course, the citizenship, all those things of the lessons that you can learn that you don't learn on the playing in the playing arena.
Right.
So she covers those type of things. We do workshops, we do conferences, we do summits. I mean, she does a fantastic job of bringing those things in place. One of them that we're very excited about and very proud of is our captain's course. So we want to get involved with our schools through their captains and get them started in how we look, what is a captain? What does a captain do? What's the role of a captain? How is the captain a resource to the head coach? Those things we can talk about and get the feeling back and feedback. Then she moved forward with our initiative of our Student Athlete Advisory Council.
Yes.
That's going to be a staple for us. So now our student athletes truly have a voice to the South Carolina High School League.
Right.
We want to know what they're thinking. We've got a group of about 15 of them, the representation from each classification.
Yeah.
So she'll be getting this conversation with them in the coming weeks. And we'll want to know what they're thinking and how we can be of helpful to them. What are the things that they're looking for out of athletics?
Right.
We as adults do a great job of figuring out what they need to do. They, as the ones that are really doing it, can do a better job of helping us to understand what they need.
Absolutely. So those were the two major initiatives we're going to talk about with the South Carolina High School League. And in December, early December, we announced a partnership with the Special Olympics Interscholastic Unified Sports. What exactly is that?
Truly.
It's a mouthful.
Yes. There's a group that all of our schools have that also enjoys athletics, that truly doesn't get an opportunity to be out there with our, for lack of a better term, traditional type athlete. The able bodies or those that are not as challenged. While there are some physically challenged ones that also compete with our able bodies, there are many that don't. So we are creating an opportunity to work with the Special Olympics group and get our schools involved with those same students that are in the school, that our students that are working with now. We just want to bring it to the forefront because it means the exact same thing.
Absolutely.
Athletics to those kids mean the exact same thing as it means to the other kids that are part of the league.
So that's something that we're going to be working towards, trying to get that, or just working alongside them to make sure that those students have the opportunity to compete. So
with this partnership, we're open to being a great resource to the Special Olympic group.
Okay.
We're actually looking at possibility of bringing in another employee that actually works directly with Unified Sports.
Okay.
So we want to be a bridge. We want to be a promoter. We want to do things that's going to make it work. Any of those type of things are on the table right now. We're still working our way through it. But the partnership is there. The partnership is there, which is really, really good. And so I'm going to revert back. What many don't know is that this is a membership league. Memberships, the school membership. And so with the reclassification, there were rules we had to follow. There were guidelines we had to follow. And so the rules of the league by way of Constitution and bylaws. And in March, we will be having the Legislative Assembly meeting. Talk about what type of things will take place during that meeting, what's voted on, and how people submit for those. Truly, as you stated before, the league is the member schools. The member schools are the league. That's what we stand on. Every decision that's made is made with the input from the membership. Now they have representatives that speaks for them, or with who they voted in to serve as their representative. But every decision made is a direction from the membership. Right. We as a body at this office, we're employed to carry out the orders as they give it to us. So sometimes we get a lot of credit for things that we don't deserve. Right. But at the same time, sometimes we get a lot of blame for things that we don't deserve either. Absolutely. But part of it is our membership has a constitution. And in that handbook includes our Constitution and the bylaws. So they get an opportunity to review it every year. Okay. Every decision made is tied to the Constitution and the bylaws. And our membership gets a chance to review their Constitution and bylaws every year. Those things that they wish to change, they can propose to change. Those things that they don't wish to change, they leave alone. Right. And they get an opportunity to bring those things forward through the process called proposals for amendments to bylaws, and constitution.
Okay.
Every principal or superintendent that has a member school in the league has the authority to write up an amendment to a proposal, an amendment to any bylaw or constitution
Right.
that we have in place. We began that process. You had to have turned it in prior to January 1.
Correct.
So by the end of December, you had to turn in any proposal that you had. We will send that out to all the entire membership. They all get to look at the proposals, the rationale, what needs to change, what not, and
Okay.
they get to vote on that in March. And they make decisions. Those that pass, we'll do.
You got to put them in the
moving
book.
forward, right? Those that don't pass, they're still there.
They're still
deal
in the
with
book.
it, right?
Okay, we just wanted to give you all, those who didn't know, that this is a membership league and the league is the membership. So just wanted to give you that. So I always like to close with what's coming on the horizon. So as you may know, February is Winter Sports Championship Month. So we have 2 championships that's coming up, well 3 technically, but wrestling and basketball. So just give us a little bit about what we have to look forward to.
Well, our fall went very well. We had our sports championships in each one of those sports that we had in the fall. That went extremely well. Actually, changed a couple of venues on a couple of them. One of them we ran cross country in Newberry on this venue called the Farm. And it went very good. Our schools had some record times. Those athletes had some record times in those. And then our football championship, for the first time in history, we held all 5 classifications at South Carolina State. Again, that went well. So that's new. We've done that differently. So we've got, and now we're excited about what we're going to do with our winter sports. We're going to have wrestling where we had it the last time at Drea High School. But that's a great venue for it, and we'll continue to use that as long as they'll have us. This is a great place. But our basketball is going to change just a little bit. You know, we play our season, we play our early rounds in the playoffs at one of the competing school sites. And then normally when we get to the semifinals, we would do what we would call our upper state finals and our lower state finals. And we would have that at a central site. One in the lower part of the state, one in the upper part of the state.
Okay.
And then we would play our state finals at a different venue.
Right.
Because we don't want to play at any site where either side can say, well, we played there twice.
Correct.
So we would play upper state at one site, lower state at a site, state at a different site. Well, what's unique this year is we're playing all of the lower state and upper state and the state finals at the exact same site. Be a true Final Four. So the 1A class, if we did the 1A class, the lower state girls and boys will play at the site. The upper state boys and girls will play at the exact same site.
That's right.
And then later, when we get to the finals,
They'll play
the upper state versus the lower state, they're playing at the exact same site.
a floor that they played on before.
Exactly. Truly an experience. If there's some spectators or fans that love basketball, this is the greatest setup you could ever have.
It is, because unlike before, you had to clear the arena. We don't have to clear the arena. You buy that ticket for the semifinal. You can stay all day. If you're just a basketball junkie, come on, stay with us all day long. I'm looking forward to it, and I have to work it, but I'm still looking forward to it.
Well, the venue that was willing to give us this opportunity is the Florence Civic Center.
Okay.
So we're really excited about being there. They've got everything around. They've got hotels right there. Easy access to them. We've got restaurants there. Everything's a one-stop shop. Everything that you could ask for in the Florence Civic Center and the whole city of Florence has really been accommodating to us, because they would like to see this go well.
And Florence Civic Center has hosted the lower state, so they understand South Carolina High School League basketball.
Exactly.
Well, Dr. Singleton, I hope I didn't take up too much of your time, but thank you for taking out the time to come and just sit with me for a little bit so we can get a better understanding of the realignment, reclassification, regions, what's on the horizon, what's been happening in the SCHSL outside of reclassification. So now that everyone knows, so I definitely appreciate you coming in.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. And anytime we can share with the general public the workings of the league, I'm always excited about that. This is a great place to be. I'm excited, I'm proud, and feel fortunate for the staff that I get to work with and the membership that I work for. So
Absolutely.
really, this is great for us, and thank you for this opportunity.